Hello, Francisco here. I'm in England and it's raining as usual. Today I'm using those headphones, recording using the microphone as usual, but to keep me away from outside noise. I hope it's not being captured by the microphone. I want to talk today about the perception of the self. I've been digging perception lately, and something happened to me recently as a photographer because I always try to make my models the people I photograph, not necessarily professional models, as good as I can, of course, and to enhance their image on camera. When I'm building an editorial, for example, or a fine art portrait, I don't take my time, but I build the posing and the image itself, not only the pose of the model, but also where I position the light and what type of light I'm using, because it's all of that that will create a good image at the end. An image is made by the people who's there, by the light, by the composition, how you use all of that. So of course, if you just focus on the person and you ignore the background, if you ignore the light, or if you ignore the person itself, if you ignore one of these, you are not working for the whole. I do believe that we have to take special care of all the details if we really want to create the fine art image. Of course, if we are photographing on the streets some candid moments, etc., we have to have a keen eye and composition, like sort of, and also a bit of inspiration. And we don't have time to compose the images, but it's a different type of imagery, of course. What happened to me was that people were seeing the images, women in this case, and they were not very happy with what they were seeing. Not because, as I say, technically the images were good, but they were just not liking how they look on the images. So, and that happens sometimes. In terms of photographer, in terms of photography, I believe that the photographer is the ultimate responsible, of course, and it's our job to make people feel good and great, right? I don't think that saying that someone is not photogenic, I don't think, number one, it's good for the client, for the model. Auto-esteem, self-esteem, and auto-confidence or self-confidence will drop, right? I want people to feel comfortable and to feel comfortable with themselves. So it's crucial for me to make the best work that I can. What I realized is that photography can be very powerful, even for some, I wouldn't say healing process, but to help people to achieve better results within themselves. Because I ask myself, what is the difference between someone seeing um, its own image on a photograph or in the mirror? And there is a very big difference, because we are used to see ourselves in the mirror every day, and a photograph is not mirrored. Selfies in the smartphone are mirrored, and that's why usually we are more comfortable taking a selfie when we see ourselves in the screen than using a camera, because our brain, we are not used to see ourselves in the non-mirrored reflection. Maybe we should create some no, not mirrored mirrors, if that makes sense. I'm getting crazy here. But that's one of the things. And of course, when people are not very confident about themselves, it's very important for the photographer to go soft, or to enhance the best of each one of us when we are being captured on camera, using glamorous light, etc., trying to work on the idea itself, not and delete images that are not good. Don't even show those images to the client, because technically they're not good. It's not about the people being glamorous or beautiful or ugly. It's not about that. It's just sometimes you trigger the camera and some eyes are closed, people are speaking, face is not relaxed, people are talking or something like that, or a strange pose. So that's not what we aim to have as final image. So delete it. Don't even show that to the client, right? That's what I think. But once we start working on the posing, we also start building confidence and trust in the model itself. That's how I like to work. And so, and surprisingly, when a model says that she doesn't look good and she doesn't want that picture even to be considered for any showcase, for an album or whatever, I delete the images, I remove them from the private website, the private gallery for proofing, for example. I remove them, I delete the images, and I confess that I also get affected. My self-esteem get affected by that, because, as I said initially, I do feel that is my responsibility as a photographer to make people feel good in their skin, using light, using props, to guide on the posing, etc. That's part of the challenge. Being on location makes things more difficult. On studio, we are ready to cover those challenges with props, with light. We already know the corners of our house, of our studio. I believe. I don't have a studio, but I believe that's what happens. And so I can ask myself this question more often and invite you to think about this. How can we use photography to increase someone else's self-esteem, for example? And how can photography be a tool to improve ourselves? As a photographer, I'm doing it constantly, but in terms of modeling, how can photography help the model to become a better person? That's tricky, and that's my question for today, for this Friday chat. Just sharing with you something that happened. I hope that this can help you anyhow. And if you're starting out, don't show every image to your model, because if you throw their mindset down, it's going to be more difficult to bring them up again. Just my advice. See you next week.